Okay, everybody. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay, we're going to get started here, everybody. My name's Tim Descher, the Executive Director here at Unleash Prosperity. I want to turn it over to the big man on campus, the boss, Stephen Moore here. He's going to give an introduction to the governor, and we'll get started with Vote With Your Feet. Big pride of the year. Steve?
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody coming out on a hot summer afternoon. This has been a project, by the way, the great governor, is it the state or the Commonwealth of Virginia? It's the Commonwealth. Okay. So the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, is here. So appreciate so much your participating in this. So I'm going to give a kind of brief overview of the project, and then we'll hear from the governor, who knows a lot about why some states grow and others don't. And then we will be taking some questions from you. So this is a project that has been about 2.5 years in the making. We had this idea. Look, let me put it very simply. I believe the single most important thing that is going on in this country economically and demographically is the massive shift in migration that's happened over the last 10 to 20 years. It is accelerating. It is not decelerating. And the quick picture here is that you're seeing a big migration of people out of the old Northeast, which once was the dominant region. For 20 years, Governor, the Northeast was the power center of America. And you think of New York and Philadelphia and Baltimore and New Jersey, and that area was the kind of apex of American economic and financial power. That is no longer the case. Just 2 years ago, for the first time in history, the Southeast is now the dominant region of the country in terms of production, and that includes obviously Florida, Texas, Virginia, North Carolina, Alabama, Arkansas. In fact, what's really interesting about this study that we've done is the states that used to be considered the backwater states, like Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi, are growing, and states like New York and Massachusetts are losing population to Arkansas and Alabama. That tells you a lot about how bad those policies are in those states. So I thought I'd just very quickly show you a demonstration of the project. We did this. We want this to be available for demographers, for students, for people who are trying to understand economic policy, and we made it as user-friendly as we possibly can. So Jackie, if you can put the first slide up that shows what is going on with respect to this. So the website is called votewithyourfeet.net, and so it is available to anybody. It's obviously free. We've made it as user-friendly as possible. And let's start with what is going on with respect to these population movements. And this is pretty amazing. You can see that the states that have grown the most in population over the last 10 years, and these are gigantic. These are net numbers, by the way. These are the numbers of people who've moved into the state minus the number of people who've moved out of the state. And you can see the big winner in this sweepstakes has been Florida, which has gained almost 2 million people on net. That's gigantic. That's four to five congressional seats right there. And then you can see Texas. There's a real competition between Florida and Texas to see which state can outdo each other. It used to be Texas, but about 3 or 4 years ago, Florida overtook Texas as the #1 state of migration. And then you look at some of these other states. I mean, look at what's going on here. You see North Carolina, you see Arizona, South Carolina, Tennessee. You notice anything the same about all these states, Governor? They're all states in the southeast region of the country, Washington State is one of the kind of outliers, but Washington State is a state that has no income tax, so it's not surprising they're gaining population. So these are enormous numbers of people that have mostly moved. Well, let's show next the states that people are. By the way, these are the official Census Bureau data. We're not making this data up. We took it straight from the census. And you can see that the losers here are pretty remarkable. California and New York have been the biggest losers. And incidentally, you could understand maybe why people would want to move out of New York. The weather isn't always so great. It's a northeastern state. It's cold there in the winter. But how do you screw up California, Governor? I mean, really, that is a slice of heaven. It has the most beautiful mountains, beautiful people, beautiful oceans. And this is the first time, Governor, in history you know, the history of our country, that California is now losing people to others. It used to be a place that people wanted to go to. And this is a good demonstration of what happens when you put in place years and years and decades of bad policies. Incidentally, the two states in the country that have the highest income tax, guess which? California and New York. And then you see my home state of Illinois, which has just been ruined by progressive policies. What's happened to Chicago has been really devastating, and you can see some of these other states, Massachusetts, et cetera. So what you get, you're starting to get the picture here, right? That people are moving out of the Northeast, they're moving to the dynamic states of the South. I want to just interject one other quick thing. When you look at states as a percentage of their population, because Florida and Texas are already big states, but the states that, of the mountain states, states like Utah, Montana, Idaho, are growing very rapidly as well. In terms of percentage terms, they're actually growing just as fast as Florida and Texas are. So what you're seeing is the coasts are not doing so well, California and the Northeast, and these states in the mountain regions of the country and the Southeast are doing really well. The next one I'll show you, can you show the next chart? Thank you very much. Is now the second part of this study that I think is maybe even more interesting than the population numbers, Governor, is we now have IRS data that tracks where people, we don't know who they are, but we know what their incomes are on their tax returns. So we have a pretty good indication of where the money is flowing into. And this is really pretty amazing. So once again, look at, by the way, Florida, almost $200 billion over the last 10 years of net income has flowed into that state. That's an incredible number. It's one of the reasons Florida is such a prosperous state right now. We're trying to buy a home in Florida right now. We can't afford it. I mean, it is a... Okay, right. Great idea, Governor. And so Florida is the big sweepstakes winner here. Texas is obviously doing well. I was surprised that Texas is gaining about as many people, but basically what this is telling you is that people with wealth are moving to Florida. And then you can see Arizona, North Carolina, South Carolina, et cetera. Before I forget, because this is a really important point, it's the reason we asked Governor Youngkin to come, is Virginia is an example of a state that got it wrong for the last 10 years. Your predecessors did not do a very good job of attracting people. It was high taxes, too much regulation, too much crime, all of those things. And you have turned that around, Governor, and our studies indicate, and the Census Bureau confirmed this, that last year, for the first time in a decade, Virginia is now a state people are moving into. So congratulations for that. That's an amazing feat. You've made a huge difference. Show the next one. So those are the states that have gained, and then this is the sad story. Same thing. New York and California and Illinois are just being bled to death. And the way I put it, Governor, is that these states need to change or die. They need to change or die because this migration will continue. Some of our friends on the left and some of our Democratic friends like to say, well, taxes don't matter that much. They don't really have an impact. You're looking at the impact of taxes right here. I mean, this is, and incidentally, I've debated some of my liberal friends for 25 or 30 years. And the one thing they cannot explain is why it is, if their progressive policies work so well, people are voting with their feet against it. And they really have no response for that other than air conditioning. And by the way, air conditioning is a factor behind the rise of the Southeast, but it is not the whole explanation. So that just shows you the states that are growing. Finally, I don't know if we can put this on the screen. Can we do this, Jackie, and show just a quick demonstration of how the website works? Okay, so this is something that Jackie did yeoman's work in putting together. And you can see what's kind of fun about this is you can look, you can click on a state, and then you can click on a second state, and it'll show you how many people are moving from one state to another. So let's start with, Jackie, let's do how many people have moved over the last 10 years from California to Texas. So you can see that's a big number. That's a huge number. Now, and by the way, you can see the moving van, and you can also do it with respect to the money that's changed. Can you do well, before you do that, let's do the other one I want to show you. And by the way, as we get in the Q&A, if you have questions about certain states, we're happy to do the demonstration. Let's do New York and Virginia. let's see, let's see how that turned out. So that's a New York to Virginia. What is that number? That is a number of people who moved out. So you're the beneficiary, Governor, of the bad policies in New York. So I want to turn it over to Governor Youngkin, who has been a superstar. I met the governor when he first started running for governor. I said, "You crazy? You're going to give up this great life that you have to run for governor." Ran a spectacular campaign and has been one of America's great governors over the last 4 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Governor Glenn Youngkin of Virginia.
I'll leave that one up there just for a minute. I have two. So first of all, thank you. While this is up here, I just want to point out two things. The data ended in 2022, which is and it's 2021 tax data. So this is the year that I came in, and I will tell you, I think there are two states on here because they have different governors that are changing. And I will tell you, Virginia, I know is changing, and on the other slide, where the other one was, Louisiana, and Louisiana is fundamentally changing, and it's interesting to watch what will happen in Louisiana as well, as they have common sense policies that attract business, reduce the cost of living and the cost of business, and I bet you're going to see Louisiana move as well. So thank you. We can move that.
By the way, this, just so you know, this is the most recent data, but we're going to get the 2023 numbers sometime in October. So I'll let you know how you're.
Perfect. I already know how we're doing. So, and one of the things I recognize, and I'll just start. First of all, Steve, thank you. Thank you for doing this project, and thank you for the warm welcome, and thank you for shining a spotlight on something that I think has probably been in your DNA for decades, which is to unleash prosperity. How about that for a concept? And to unleash prosperity because you believe in individual liberty, and you believe in free enterprise, and you believe that, in fact, those influences move businesses and people, and we can track this. And that's why I always read every day, and if you don't, read the Unleash Prosperity hotline every day. Yeah. Because I'm telling you, it is outstanding. It is outstanding.
How do we get it? UnleashProsperity.com.
UnleashProsperity.com. Go get it. But it's part of my daily reading, and the reason it is because there's always, actually, usually 4 or 5 great nuggets in there that either reinforce something that I have been struggling with and give me a new perspective on it, or plant a new idea. And so thank you. Thank you for always pressing our thinking.
Governor, the reason he likes it is we keep praising all the great things.
Yeah, there we go. Well, there's lots of challenges in there.
About those numbers on crime in Virginia, they're amazing.
They're amazing. I mean, the bottom line is we've dropped murders in Virginia by 30% simply by putting more badges on the street. How about that for an idea? More badges on the street. And by the way, we have the largest training class in our state police academy that we've had since 2018, the 3rd largest one in the history of state police. So guess what? You back the blue, you fund them, you stand behind them when they have challenges, and you celebrate them with their wins. And people want to be police officers in your state. And more police officers means lower crime. That's just that simple. You are not alone in what you do. And Art Laffer has been an amazing friend to me and partner for you. But you also have a great executive director of communications, and I just want to thank Tim Dosher for all your work, Tim, and getting ready today. I don't know where you are, but you're in the room here, so thank you. And then I want to point out Justin Valles-Hagen, who is my deputy chief of staff, and Justin is the keeper of all data. And so thank you, Justin. But what we find is that this concept of migration is not something that people had really grasped onto. I have been talking about this for 5 years, and for 5 years I have been basically an apostle, talking about the fact that if you have fewer customers today in your state, fewer people than you had yesterday, your state is heading in the wrong direction. And when those people take their money with them, and that money represents a disproportionate amount of your state's economic activity, you got a major challenge. And I have to say, Steve and I just hit it off literally like 2 kids in a candy shop, because we started talking about this right when I was running, and I finally found somebody else on the planet that would listen to me. My wife was even not listening to me at that point. She's like, honey, I know this, out-migration, I get it. But at the end of the day, this is at the economic and, by the way, the financial heart of a state. Because one of the things that is going to be on the next chart is states that are running deficits and states that are running surpluses. Because if you are shrinking, you are running a deficit. And if you are growing, you are running a surplus. And it's just that simple. And that's the difference between winning states and losing states. And that's why you can look at the states that are increasing even their share of new jobs and people, and they're the ones that get to invest time and time and time again, and the ones that are consistently offering tax relief time and time again. And how about this for a basic economic cycle? We're going to reduce your taxes. And then we're going to see more people come to my state. And those more people are going to bring with them their income, and they're going to pay taxes. And then we have a surplus. And with that surplus, we get to invest in education and law enforcement and behavioral health, and we get to reduce taxes again. And guess what? More people come. And this virtuous cycle actually works. And we know it works is because that is what we've unleashed in the Commonwealth of Virginia. In 2022, we saw 10 years of data like this, with more people moving away than moving in, on average about 15,000 net out-migration to the other states for 10 years in a row. Now, by the time you get 10 years into that, that's not just billions of economics that are going away, but it's about $500 million a year in tax revenue that disappears. Your tax base goes with them. And so in 2023, after we had our first round of great tax relief, and we had our first round of businesses coming to Virginia, in 2023, for the very first time, Virginia broke the mold. And we were number 9 in the nation for net in-migration, coming from number 40 the year before. That is the big shift. And when that happened, we saw another amazing thing happen. We ran a huge surplus. And that allowed us to go for tax relief again. And that allowed us to invest in all the building blocks again: education, law enforcement, mental health, and by the way, running government more efficiently. And guess what? More people came again, and more businesses came again. And this virtuous cycle works. And today, as we look back over these 4 years, we now have $125 billion of business investment that's been promised to the Commonwealth of Virginia. We have more people working than we've ever had in the history of the state. The 2024 data again suggests Virginia's net in-migration. I actually watch all this data, van line data, and anything I can get people to move. I actually stand at the border and count sometimes. But at the end of the day, Allied Van Line says we were number 5 in the nation in net in-migration in 2024. United Van Line says we're a 55-45 net importer. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that gives you real insight into what's happening in your state. And then I get to look at our financials. And Virginia, for the 4th year in a row, is running a multi-billion-dollar surplus. We've had over $10 billion of surpluses in 4 years. Record invested in education, record investment in law enforcement, record investment in behavioral mental health, record investment in taking care of God's green earth, because I believe that if we take care of it, it'll take care of us, and $9 billion in tax relief during this entire time. It works, it works, it works. And the states where it is not working, we see over and over again. And those states continually see out-migration, businesses leaving, and as a result, deficit after deficit. And what do they have to do? Because they refuse to cut spending, they raise taxes. They raise taxes. And all it does is turn their out-migration faucet from medium to high, and before you know it, those states are in trouble. And that's exactly what you see. My friend, Governor Little, who is in Idaho, will frequently say, as he and I were on an economic development panel last week, he says, the very best economic development program I have in the state of Idaho is California. It's true. And I have to say, there's a state just north of us where they have now become the 3rd heaviest tax load in America, We have more people moving here from there by just a huge factor. And in fact, just recently, one of the chairmen of their Senate Economic Development Authority, who voted to raise taxes on business, then moved his business from Maryland to Virginia. It happens. It works. So, Steve, thank you. Thank you for caring so deeply about not unleashing prosperity in itself, but recognizing that we as decision makers can make a decision every day to help our citizens be more prosperous, to help our states be more successful, and the formula is not that hard. We just got to do it. So God bless you. Thank you, and I look forward to the conversation.
All right.
We'll take a few questions. I just want to punctuate a few points that the governor made. He kids me all the time because I actually moved from Virginia to Maryland about 6 years ago, and I'm kind of regretting it. And you know, I live in Montgomery County. In Montgomery County, Maryland, I don't know if you're familiar with this. We have a 6% state income tax, and Montgomery County has, I don't know, Virginia, do you allow cities and counties to raise?
No, the cities and localities don't have an income tax,
Right.
but they've all
Okay.
figured out they have
Well,
a
Maryland
meals
does.
tax now.
Maryland does, so I'm paying a 9.5%, and I'm not rich. I pay 9.5% income tax, so I may be coming back to Virginia thanks to you. So I wanted to just show one other quick thing. I don't know if, Jackie, we have this available. This is the relationship between which states people moved into. It's the chart that shows the income taxes. Do you have that, Jackie? Is this the one? So while she's looking for that, what this chart shows, if we can call it up, is that the states, remember when I was showing you the states that are losing the people the most, the two states that are losing the most people are also the states that have the highest income tax. So in New York, which New York City has the highest income tax in the United States. I don't know if you're aware of that. And their rate is now 14.4%. 14.4%. And California, I think, is 13.5%. And this is just math, folks. You can pay 14% and live in New York City, or you can move to Florida, or you can move to Texas and pay 0. And our studies show very compellingly that the tax system has a huge, huge impact on where people are moving to. And that's why, as soon as you started cutting taxes, guess what? People started coming to. Why is this so hard for people to?
Well, one of my thoughts also is if the mayoral election in New York City goes the way it looks like it goes, I've already got a billboard reserved that says, just stop halfway to Florida on 95 and you'll be home.
And look, we laugh about this. This is serious business because, New York City is the most important city in the United States. 8 million people live there. It is the home of Wall Street. It is such an incredible city. And the candidate there has said that he wants to raise the income tax on the rich by another 2 percentage points. And if he's watching this on C-SPAN or some of these other networks, if you do that, I really believe New York City will no longer have Wall Street. They're this close to losing Wall Street. And by the way, when I used to go to Wall Street 15 years ago versus today, Wall Street's just a ghost town of what it used to be. It's sad. So I don't want that to happen. I hope that the people of New York are smart enough not to let that happen. So with that, why don't we just open it up for questions? Okay, good. So if you've got a question, or do you have any other further comments before we take some questions? Okay, open it up. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Governor and Steve, for this event. Loudoun County is, I think,
Okay, can you run to the person?
the prosperous county in this country today, and a large part because we've got
Thanks.
tech
I'll get
data
interest.
centers and everything.
Please do.
It does take energy. So can you give us some insight as to what you're doing to make sure that energy is going to be available
question.
to power everybody?
So the top factors in a business moving anywhere today have always been talent, a shovel-ready site, a business-friendly environment, and power. And I have to say that list is being retumbled right now as our nation finds itself with a massive power deficit.
Right.
In fact, we need twice the power generating capacity that we have today just in the next 8 years. And that's to meet the need of a rapidly growing economy. And Virginia has that in spades. Historically, particularly in the last 4 years before I came in, the previous administration passed a Green New Deal. And they basically said, we're going to dismantle all hydrocarbon-based power generation and replace it solely with wind and solar. That's it. That's all you got. And they also based all of that on an economic forecast that had flat growth. No job growth, no economic growth, and by the way, folks, no state growth. Right. And that reflected their view of Virginia's prospects. Now, 4 years later, Virginia's growing like crazy, and we need more power. And so I brought an all-American, all-of-the-above power plan back in late 2022 and said we need it all. We need anything we can build, but particularly we need natural gas, and we've got to go build a lot of natural gas generating capacity. We need it now. We need to develop nuclear faster than anybody else, and we're not going to dismantle anything that we've got because we can't replace it with weather-dependent power generation. And we have a bunch of solar under development, and we've got an offshore wind, and that stuff was so far down the road when I came in. I was like, just finish it, please. We need it. And so this is the big step for us as a state, which is to meet the power demand that underpins economic opportunity, that underpins jobs and migration movements. So I am cautiously optimistic that we're heading in a reasonable direction. But I will say I need the General Assembly in Richmond, which is controlled by 1 seat in the House and 1 seat in the Senate by the Democrats. I need them to start undoing the Virginia Clean Economy Act, because without us undoing it, we are going to be limited in how fast we can grow. And I don't think Virginians should be limited. I think Virginians should be allowed to run as fast as they can. So this is our next big step. And I've even heard a couple of the senior Democrat leaders saying what I've been saying for 4 years, which is the Virginia Clean Economy Act doesn't work.
So I bet a lot of people, in this room and a lot of people around the country don't realize that the largest data center in the country is there in Loudoun County. A lot of people even in Loudoun County don't know it's there.
Virginia's the largest data center market in the world by a factor of 4.
So are you going to have enough energy? I mean, you need electric
If they
power.
do what I've asked them to do,
Right.
the short answer is yes. If they reverse trend and stop the development of gas, stop the development of nuclear, and then pick back up the dismantling or decommissioning of our existing power stack, then we could run into real problems. And of course, what comes with that plan, their plan, are utility bills that go through the roof, because they're putting it all on the back of the ratepayers. And one of the great things that we've done is negotiate with all of the data center folks that they can now apply through the State Corporation Commission and get their own customized rate, which forces them to pay for the infrastructure that goes into their power developments, not the ratepayers themselves, who are already suffering from the result of the Green New Deal that was passed 4 years ago.
One of the states that, sorry to interrupt, but one of the states that is, for the first time in a long, long, long time, growing is one of your neighbors, West Virginia. And one of the reasons West Virginia is growing is because they have bountiful energy. And so, and Virginia does too. And so it's frustrating that so many states are.
But one of the things that I've been so encouraged by the leadership in West Virginia is that they recognize they have an advantage. Mm-hmm. They're reducing tax burdens ahead of the game. And what they've seen as a result is, guess what? Population migration heading to West Virginia. So, I mean, this is not a difficult formula, which is tell your customers you care about them. Your customers are your citizens, and we're going to reduce the tax burdens on you. We're going to create more opportunity for you and your family to live a fabulous life, and the virtuous cycle works.
So if people want to see exactly what the governor's talking about, go to our new website, votewithyourfeet.net, and you can find these migration patterns. And you're exactly right, by the way, that energy is so important to this formula. Other questions or comments?
Hello, Dr. Myrtle Alexander here in Washington, D.C. So we're looking forward and looking at what's taking place now with USDA. How does that affect Washington, Virginia, Maryland, when you're going to have USDA moving out to other states? How will that factor into your numbers?
With what?
The
US
USDA.
Department of Agriculture.
Right. Oh, beg your pardon.
So let me start. We have a very large number of folks in Virginia who work for the federal government. And in fact, we have, again, a disproportionate number of people who live in Virginia but work in the federal government in other places. They made good decisions. They decided to live in Virginia because we have lower taxes, the roads are better, the schools are better, it's safer, and therefore you should move to Virginia, Steve. What we, of course, are going to see is we're going to see some job reductions. Virginia is, on the face of it, a little protected because a disproportionate number of our jobs are in defense, national security, and the intelligence community, and there's $150 billion more coming into that community. But we are going to see other areas either be moved out of the greater DMV area or reduced in an absolute sense. And you may have seen just recently the Department of Housing and Urban Development moved their headquarters from D.C. to Virginia. And once again, they found great real estate, and that's where their folks wanted to live, work, and raise their family. So the net of it is there will be movement. There will be movement. And then my job is to make sure that when people do experience that dislocation in their employment, and it happened to my family twice when I was growing up. In 7th grade and 11th grade, my dad lost his job. It's rough. But in this case, what I have clearly put in place, I think, is a pathway to a great future. We have 250,000 open and unfilled jobs in Virginia. And I'm going to say that again. 250,000 open and unfilled jobs. And those jobs, about 100,000 of them require a bachelor's degree or greater. So these are really high-paying jobs. And about 110,000 of them are in Northern Virginia. And so there is great opportunity for people to find a new pathway. And then we have laid out, if anybody's curious, at virginiahasjobs.com, a pathway for people to find educational resources if they need a credential or they want to get a master's degree or take a course. We've got all that online ready for people to sign up. We have pathways for people to maintain their healthcare coverage so that they can get through this bridge. And then, of course, the website has the jobs on it, and you can actually search on almost any field in any location. And my goal is to help people migrate quickly from a public sector job at the federal government to another job in Virginia in the private sector or with one of our state agencies.
So, Governor, one of the things that we've talked a lot about, but we can't talk enough about, is the importance of taxation. And as you know, there are 9 states in the United States today that have no income tax at all. And many of them are in the southeast, some of them neighboring states to Virginia. So you've got Texas, you've got Florida, you've got Tennessee, you've got Mississippi just passed a law to phase out their income tax. One of the things that we would like to see at Unleash Prosperity, we have this dream that the entire southeast region of the country, because you're not the only governor in the southeast that's cutting taxes. Almost all of these Republican governors are doing that. This is our dream, to make the Southeast a kind of income tax-free zone, a school choice zone. You've done a lot of school choice. That's a big issue. Right now, right to work. Virginia is a right to work.
Virginia is a right to work state,
That's
and we
huge.
need to elect the correct
Yes.
governor candidate to maintain a
That's
right to work
critical,
status.
because we find that twice as many jobs and people are moving to right-to-work states than forced union states. So just any thoughts about that?
What you also see is that the states that are aggressively moving to phase out their personal income tax have one single characteristic: unified Republican leadership in their General Assembly and their governor's office. It's just it. It's just true. And so West Virginia talks about it. That's what they're moving toward. You mentioned Mississippi. And that's why elections matter. And so, I have been in divided government since the day I came in. I will say that common sense does prevail when the doors are shut most of the time, and you can usually convince people with all of the data that we've been talking about that the future of Virginia requires us to have tax relief and to invest in site development and economic development. And But the reality is that every time I have moved to really restructure our tax code, I get blocked. And I do think somewhere along the way, Virginia's going to have to wake up and recognize that the states just south of us are eliminating, or at least substantially reducing, both their personal income tax and their corporate tax. And that is a really important milestone. Virginia back in 2012 was one of the low tax states in the Southeast. And now we find ourselves chasing in order to keep up with the tax reductions that have been placed out. So again, the formula is really straightforward. I have been advocating and an apostle for it since the day I was elected. And the states who figure it out are the ones that are going to continue to compete and win, and the ones that don't are going to fall behind.
Well, that's what VoteWithYourFeet.net is all about. So one other issue I wanted to bring up with you, you mentioned energy, and thanks, Ann, for bringing that up, because I agree with her and you that is a huge issue. I don't think a lot of states are prepared for the increased demand. It could be double or even triple over the next 10 years. The other issue, of course, is housing. And we have a housing shortage in the United States. Trump has talked a lot about this. We've been doing our analysis, and I'd love to get your perspective as a governor. It's pretty clear that the states and the cities that have the worst housing shortages are states that have two things. One is rent control, and the other is very strict zoning laws that don't allow multifamily homes be built. Are you doing, what are your thoughts about that? Are you doing anything, Virginia?
So on top of that, I think you should have a fourth page on Vote With Your Feet, which is just housing development by the numbers. And you literally can see the number of homes either based on the current census of homes or per capita. And you will also see that these same areas that are growing the most actually have the largest home production. They just do. And states that are struggling with home production are the ones that are losing people. And then there's folks like Virginia where we straddle. And Virginia's got a challenge. It's been one of my big issues, which is so much of home construction and the zoning for home building is handled at the local level. And the state, we have streamlined regulations. We've taken out 80,000 regs in Virginia. 25% of our reg base we have streamlined. It saves people $1.2 billion a year. We've taken $25,000 out of the cost of a home by redoing the regulations around a home. But the flip side is, if the local authorities are going to continue to proffer people to death, and those of you in the real estate industry know what that is, they just layer on requirement after requirement after requirement, and before you know it, it becomes uneconomic to build medium-priced homes. And the only homes that make sense to build are big ones, because you can overcome the development cost by the absolute price of the house. And so this is a huge thing for us. And I have really started to put a huge amount of pressure on our localities, to the point where if you want economic development assistance, you got to come to me with a housing plan on how you're going to enable the construction of housing units to be workforce housing for people who are going to move there.
We got time for one or two more quick questions if you've got one, sir.
Okay.
You and me.
My name is Marnix van Rij. Actually, I'm from the Netherlands, as you might hear. We just moved, my wife and myself, to Virginia last year.
But I'm American.
But she's American. I have a question, because I'm pretty impressed about what you just said. And what we do see, the Netherlands is also is a relatively small country, but a big economy. We are one of the major investors in the United States, both companies, but also institutional investors. Your president has concluded a trade deal with the EU. And as you know, part of that is an investment of at least 750 billion in the United States. How are you going to promote Virginia, especially for foreign investors? Because I'm a former minister of taxation in the Netherlands. So I heard you talking about the personal income tax and the corporate income tax. These are crucial factors for foreign companies to invest. And I would love to see at least Dutch and European companies investing in Virginia.
Okay, Great question.
Great question.
And
Thank you.
we live in Falls Church.
Hooray. I hope everybody that doesn't live in Virginia is feeling compelled to move. So thank you. And so let me just tell you what we've been doing. First of all, we have had just a massive uptick over the last 3 years in businesses committing to expand, build, and grow in Virginia. And to put it in context, we're about $125 billion of committed expansion capital, and that's more than the previous 2 administrations combined over 4 years. So big movement in companies wanting to be in Virginia because we've worked hard to make Virginia business friendly. We have shovel-ready sites. We solve power problems. We have a great workforce. Companies want to come. So interestingly, as soon as President Trump signed the deal with the UK, I was in the office of the largest publicly traded company in the UK trying to convince AstraZeneca to move to Virginia. 33 days later, they announced $50 billion commitment to America, and the biggest piece of it in Virginia. Last week, I was on the phone with a whole bunch of Japanese companies, convincing them to come to Virginia. And I've started today with all my European friends. And I get up really early, and so at 5:30 I am smiling and dialing. So I'm 6 hours ahead in Europe, and I'm calling all of them. But the bottom line is, there's a moment here where there's an investment decision to be made. And whoever's there first is going to have the best chance to explain why you should come to Virginia. For those of you who like football, I am in the SEC of economic development. I mean, I'm competing against Tennessee and North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, and Texas all the time. And I got to get there first.
How much you paying those quarterbacks?
Yeah, well, NIL's another problem. But that, to me, it is having a great value proposition and then getting in front of the decision makers and helping them understand why Virginia is the right place to be. Listen, we win more than our fair share, but anybody that's got a good lead for me, I'll take it, and I promise that we'll follow up by tomorrow. No issue at all. Thank you.
Last question, and then we're going to cut this off. So.
How about this side?
I don't want to abuse your time.
No, I'm good.
All right, so we'll take a couple more, but we'll go
Sure, yes.
speed round.
All right, real quick, as an economist, it's great you're talking about taxes, talking about regulations, those are key to coming in. But also the underlying issue is you got a special election in 11th District, which I'm in, and we have a governor race and lieutenant governor race. What are your thoughts on all that?
Okay,
So,
hold on.
yeah.
We'll just take a couple, and then I'll.
Okay, we'll
Go ahead.
clump
Ma'am,
them all up.
Yeah.
My question, well, I did come from Texas 2.5 years ago, so I feel safe in this room saying that. My question is I'm into healthcare policy, and actually one of my dreams is to get a research institution. I did go to law school to study healthcare policy, and I know that Virginia has CON laws, the Certificate of Need laws. And some of the states, like Texas and Florida, have kind of eased up on those certificates to make it a little easier for competition in the healthcare industry, which will drive prices down. So I just wanted to know your thoughts on that and possibly changes in that, since they're so all old and outdated.
And while you're, by the way, as you probably know, our mutual friend Arthur Laffer is really into this idea of healthcare price transparency. So could you kind of add that into the mix and take those on? Yeah, and then we'll take one over here.
So first of all, we have a giant election in Virginia, actually 2. September 9th is CD11. That's a special election. And then we have a great candidate. I was with him this morning. But on top of that, we've got a big election on November the 4th. And so elections matter. I can't put it any other way. I mean, if anybody hasn't figured out that elections have consequences, they have not seen the nation in the last 6 months.
That's true.
I mean, think of the difference today than where we were this time last year. And so elections have consequences. We've got to win elections. We won in 2021. We've got to win in 2025. And so anybody who is in Virginia, we need you to get out to vote. And let me tell you, vote for Winsome Earl Sears for governor. She will continue what we're doing and do a great job. We'll do a great job. On the healthcare front, first of all, I am a big fan of competition. And therefore, I would look forward to inviting you to help me grease the skids with our General Assembly on why it is a good thing. Remember, I've got people on the other side who, I always talk about cutting red tape, and I've started to change my tune. I call it cutting blue tape because we know where the tape comes from. And so I need some help cutting some blue tape. That'd be awesome. And then finally, price transparency is critical. And it's critical because no one really understands what things cost, because you cannot see a look-through price to them. And just start with pharmaceuticals. I mean, we cannot tell what pharmaceuticals cost, and particularly with the middlemen, the PBMs, you really can't tell what they cost. And so we need net look-through pricing in healthcare, which then will allow us to allocate resources the right way in order to get at those areas where prices really aren't reflective of good supply and demand, and other ways to work to bring down prices where we really are seeing patients taken advantage of. And I think that's what's happening. So,
Phil,
Okay, thanks. So just
we'll take these last two, and then you go, and then you go, and then we'll stop.
absolutely, thanks. So just one. Well, thank you for coming, Governor. And I agree that in migration is definitely better than the alternative about
Can you
migration.
put your microphone up?
Sure, absolutely. But I guess my one question would be: are there any concerns about how you might manage the effect of a large amount of immigration? I mean, you go around Northern Virginia.
Sorry, a large
lately-
what? Immigration. Okay.
In migration.
Got it.
Right, like, yeah, like you go out to Fairfax County. They used to have a hunt. You drive through Fairfax now. You can't imagine hunting out there at all. You go out to Aldi, and it used to be beautiful. Pristine countryside is now, you see townhome development for people who work in D.C. but can't afford to live here. You see, a lot of 10 years ago, Virginia was a much more conservative state, I think, than it is now. And, you see a lot of the places that have benefited the most from immigration, such as, how do you affect the,
Yeah, let's hand it over to Phil then.
Yeah, I actually have an answer, not a question, because in your opening you said you love the hotline, you read it every day. I'm part of the editorial team. Just for anyone who didn't hear where to get it, unleashprosperity.com. You go to unleashprosperity.com, click on hotline, you will get it every weekday. I do the first draft every night, and then Steve rewrites every single word, and so it has his wit and wisdom, and you get it totally free every day, unleashprosperity.com, and thank you for the kind words about the hotline.
The great things that Glenn Youngkin is.
We praise you often as you deserve it.
So go ahead.
one more here.
All right.
Add one more to it.
All right, so one of the big things that attracts businesses to Virginia is the educated workforce. So with the rise of AI, is there any plan to give educational benefits to people who are structurally unemployed?
Great question. All right, so let me cover first. With growth comes challenges and opportunities. And so I always start first with localities have to work with us and have to have a plan. And if the locality doesn't want economic development, they're not working with us, they generally don't get it. And what we're seeing is there's some localities that are really working hard with us, and they're the ones that are getting a lot of investment. There's other ones that aren't, and that's their choice. I will say what comes with that is a deep integration on transportation planning, on school construction, on law enforcement support, on all the services that come with it. And the state's deeply engaged in that with growing localities. And you have to be, because we know that more people need more services. But if we're doing this right, the tax receipts and the economic impact of a growing community far outweigh the demand of needing to invest in all of that infrastructure. So part of, I think, I'm very much from the school that says get the decisions closest to the voters, and these are decisions for localities to make, and localities need to make them. I will say, just if I could for a minute, Fairfax County is an interesting one. The leadership in Fairfax County 8, 10, 15 years ago was deeply engaged with Virginia as far as economic development would demand, helping us recruit companies and those kinds of things, and Fairfax County was growing. Over the last few years, Fairfax County no longer really participates very much in wanting to attract companies. And so you see Fairfax County not growing and in fact net shrinking. And in fact, they were running a $300 million deficit. And so what does Fairfax County do is they raise taxes, and they go to a meals tax, and they go to their property taxes and their car taxes. And guess what that does is it drives more people out of Fairfax County. And so the bottom line is you have to have a top-line economic engine driven by business investment to hire more people, to give them the wherewithal to live in order to drive this economic engine. Otherwise, you become Fairfax County. Now, one of the great questions about AI. We have the most spectacular workforce in Virginia. We rank top of the list in just about every single poll or survey. Our customized talent development program, which is called our Talent Accelerator, was just rated the #1 customized talent program in America for the 3rd year in a row. One of the challenges is we do have AI involved in every aspect of work. And it's here, not coming, it's here. And so last Monday, we announced a special program in partnership with Google, our community colleges, and our universities to provide pathways to AI certificates. And here's how it works. By the way, if you haven't been to virginiahasjobs.com, it's a magic website. You can find jobs, but you can also find the AI landing spot. And there, right on the front page, if you want to go get a scholarship from Google, there's 10,000 of them available to obtain an AI credential in no matter whatever you're doing, or you can move and get literally an associate's degree at one of our community colleges, or you can put yourself on a secondary degree at one of our 4 years. And what we're finding just in this first week, we've been up for a week, we had 13,000 people go apply for a credential scholarship from Google. We've got 10,000 scholarships, so they're starting to move their way through those. The good thing is it's like a library book. And once somebody uses that scholarship and obtains their AI Essentials credential, they can put the library book back and somebody else can come use it. And so these don't get exhausted. It's a huge opportunity for us to develop a workforce that is capable of working in the manufacturing sector or in the marketing office sector, or even being a coder in AI to take advantage of both the opportunities, but the reality that AI will influence everything that happens in the workforce going forward.
Well, Governor, that is a fantastic analysis, and thank you so much. Just to summarize, by the way, can you, Jackie, put up, I want to show one more thing on this chart. Just put up the charts on, just do New York and Florida. So that's just showing you, you can see the moving bands and the dollar bills. This is a crisis for New York. New York has to figure out how they can retain their people, because your people are your best assets. And so one of the things that is a remarkable statistic, you probably know this one, but New York and Florida right now roughly have the same population, within a few 100,000. New York spends twice as much money per person on their government as Florida does. Think about that. New York spends twice as much money per person as Florida does. And I've been to both states, and I would say Florida has superior public services than New York. So the question is, where is all that money going? And that's the same thing with Texas and California. You have been a fiscally lean governor who's invested in the right things and taken money out of the things that we shouldn't be spending money on. And so congratulations on your great job. The website is called votewithyourfeet.net. It is kids should be using it, demographers, people who are doing research on what's happening in the states. I'll say this again, I really believe the most important thing that's happening in America that people aren't paying enough attention to is this internal migration that's changing the nature of our country. And states like Virginia and North Carolina and Texas and Florida are gaining. And for my friends who live in New Jersey or my home state of Illinois, or New York or Pennsylvania, you need new leadership, because you're quite right, Governor. Leadership is everything. Let's give Governor Youngkin a great round of applause for being here. Thank you all for being here. I want to just give a quick thanks to Tim Desher, who put this whole thing together, Jackson Avery, Jackie, you did an amazing job putting this together. Shelley, thank you so much for all of your work on this. And my wife Anna is here. She tolerates me, so thank you. Tara Greer is here. And we'll have a nice little reception afterwards. Thank you for coming, and have a great day, and vote with your feet. Thank you very much.